The third exercise that we're going to do this week in Chapter 3 of your textbook is called Vehicle. In it, we are working with the vehicle property of the objects in Alice. In some user stories, you might want to synchronize the movements of two separate objects. That is, have one object move along in tandem with another objects. And you find the vehicle property on the property panel in Alice. So we're going to go back to an exercise we did earlier called horse, where we had a native girl that was facing a horse. We used a variable to store the distance between them and have to move forward. Let's say the next scene of that story, we have the girl get on top of the horse and she has to ride the horse across the screen in scene 4 of a story. So the first thing we need to do is add the native girl and the horse to our world. So the horse, again, we can find one in medieval and just put him on the right side of the screen and rotate him so that he is facing to the left. And now we want to get the native girl to sit on top of him. So go back to the gallery and look at Old West to get the native girl. And you can't really so much put her on top of the horse as just make her appear to ride the horse, because you don't want to manually manipulate her legs and put them around the horse. But if you rotate her so she is facing the same direction, and then use the up-down tool to move her to approximate horseback level, then you can use the arrow to move the objects freely and move her so just one leg is showing, so it looks like she's sitting on the horse. She's not technically sitting on it, but from this angle in 3D space, it looks like she's riding the horse. There are sometimes some display issues when you make them ride together that will have her lag a little bit behind or move a little bit ahead of the horse. If you run into that, all you need to do is move her up closer to the horse's head or move her further on his back. Don't worry about that as long as your code is fine. I'm not worried about any lag. Like I said, that's just a display issue in Alice. That's nothing you did wrong. So situate native girl so she looks more or less like she's sitting on a horse. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going to go in and manually move her legs so that she is straddling the horse. Just make it so she sort of looks like she's sitting on him. If you view it from the top, you can tell obviously that she is not actually sitting on the horse, but we're not going to be viewing it from that angle. We're just going to be viewing it from the side. Alright, so normally to make the girl move, we're going to create a scene 4 for our story. So since it's a scene method, dividing the world into parts, we select world first and then create a new method, and the book has it called play scene 4. And in that, we could pull up a do in order and tell the horse to move forward and let's give it an amount of 5 meters. Now when you test it, you'll see the problem with this. Well, first of all, the first problem is we didn't call the scene in my first method. So my first method, let's drag over the new world method we created called play scene 4, and now let's test it. You can see the horse takes off and leaves her just standing in place because they are not synchronized right now. However, we can go in and change her one of her properties, and so that she will move with the horse. One way to do this would have been in scene 4, instead of just telling the horse to move forward 5 meters, we could have put a do together statement and also told the girl to move forward 5 meters. However, that makes you write twice as many lines of code, which again, you want to use the least amount of code possible to create your project. And anytime we wanted to make her ride the horse, we'd have to keep using additional statements that are virtually identical to what the horse is doing. So it's a lot of extra coding. So it'd be better if we can make the girl ride the horse, so when the horse moves, the girl goes with it. And so if you select the girl, native girl, and look at her property panel, we have dealt with the opacity already, but right underneath that is vehicle. Right now her vehicle is set to the world, which means she moves freely throughout the world on her own. She's not in tandem with anyone else. However, we can change her vehicle to another object, and whenever that object moves, she moves with it. You can set it in the property panel. Let's just go ahead and match what the book does and drag that tile over and set it in the code. So above the horse move method, let's have the vehicle set the value to the horse, the entire horse. So now her vehicle is the horse. When the horse moves, she moves. So let's hit play and test that again. And they move in tandem. As I said, you might have seen her slide forward just a little bit as she moved across the screen. That is just a glitch with Alice. Don't worry about it. But I am going to set his duration so he doesn't fly across the screen to take a little longer than the default 1 second. Let's set it for 4 seconds, and then you can see a little more clearly how she moves. And if you did have some display problems, you can just manually move her forward or backward on the horse to get rid of it. We'll be using this property a lot anytime you have someone on horseback, if you have a character holding an object, if you have two people that you want to move in tandem. Think about whether or not it's more time efficient to use the vehicle method to make them move together instead of using a do together. Anytime you have two objects doing the same type of movement, moving in the same area, sometimes it's better to set the vehicle property instead of just using those do together statements and using twice as much code. All right, we're going to save this one as your last name, first initial, underscore vehicle. And I do realize that we skipped over a section in your textbook, but we will be getting into that next week. There's a section on wizards where we're creating new property variables and functions. We'll do those all in one setting because right before this exercise it started, and then the book continues that exercise after we deal with the girl and her horse. So this short little exercise is just to get out of the way before we can do the properties and functions exercise with the wizard next week. So go ahead and upload this to Moodle when you're done, and those 3 exercises are all we will be doing for the week of March 3rd.